All right, hey everybody. It's about 1 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for coming. I do have Richard here to kind of help with some of the technical stuff because yeah. Anyways, so we will go ahead and get started. Can you guys all see my shared screen, Applied Behavior Analysis, ABA?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, just a little about myself. My name is Sarah Carr. I am, I can do this. There we go. Introduction. Yeah, so I've been working in early education for about 10 years now. I know a bunch of you guys have a varying backgrounds. Some of you nursing, education. I'm gonna be letting people in. Oh, wow. Okay. I have no idea what just happened there. Let's see here. Share screen. Oh, that was frustrating. Okay. All right. I think we're back up. All right. Okay. So yeah, myself. Where was I? My end goal, anyways, is to go into organizational behavior management, which is I want to work with education teams. I want to do workshops like this that are geared towards teaching teams and help them get into understand behaviors of their staff or their children that they're working with. So there we go. Okay. Wow, yeah, this is crazy that you guys have to let them in one at a time. Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyways, so some careers in ABA. Right now, a lot of people associate it with autism, working with children with special needs, which, yep, that is part of applied behavior analysis. But it's also in the medical field. You can find it in organizations, which is what I want to do. Athletics is another one where I've seen a lot of those that are going through our sports management program come and want to take our sequence classes because they'll get to learn more about how they can reinforce their teams or just overall help their programs, their athletic training programs. And also in finances. And so keep these careers in mind as we're going through all this, and then hopefully by the end you'll see where in some of these careers you can see a lot of behaviors. In organization, it's mostly known as industrial organizational psychology. So yeah. All right, so a lot of you have already taken Richard's class and he's kind of discussed behavior, but some of you, it's kind of a new topic for you. So I'm just gonna go over some basic terms that you're gonna hear me discuss a lot throughout this. So we got behavior, which is just the act of an organism. You guys logging on here, that was a behavior, boom. A stimulus is something that comes before the behavior or affects the behavior. For you guys, the stimulus of opening your email and clicking on it, that the email was the stimulus. It got you to do something. Shaping is us trying to mold a behavior to form or remove a behavior. So shaping is just the process of nudging that behavior along to full fruition or slowly pushing it away to extinction. Then you have consequences. Consequences are the actions that come after the behavior. They can be good, or gosh, I actually don't like using that term. They can be positive, which would be reinforcing, or they can be negative, which is punishing. So behavior analysis, simply put, Why did that just happen? What made that happen? That's known as the antecedent. What just happened? That's the behavior. And is it going to happen again? And that would be the consequence. So we call it the ABCs, antecedent, behavior, consequence, because those pretty much just kind of packaged together there. Yeah, negative. So if it's going to happen again, it was reinforced. And if it's not going to happen again, it was punished. So yeah. Behavior is predictable. That's what I really enjoy about working with in this field, is getting to like see, okay, I really do understand why that just occurred, that just happened. It's actually helped me improve a lot of my study habits, because I've noticed that I can kind of like tinker off, and I'll set little goals for myself, and it's really neat. So the things that we do are because they've been reinforced, and the things that we don't do anymore are because they've been punished. It's pretty straightforward there. Here's an example, an antecedent. You guys are driving down the road, you see a Krispy Kreme sign. So now your behavior, you're gonna find yourself in the drive-thru ordering some donuts, and the consequence is you get a yummy donut with sprinkles, my favorite. Another good example I had to add too is the antecedent. Ooh, you guys see a nice little light socket. Okay, all right. Maybe had a couple of drinks, you know, and it's feeling a little experimental. So the behavior is that. And then of course the consequence is that. So you can see what I showed you before with the donuts. That was a reinforcing. I know. Where did I find that picture of you? The first example I showed you with the donut, that was a reinforcing contingency. You know, that's going to probably happen again. You enjoyed the donut. What I just showed you now here is a punishing contingency, that you're probably not going to do that again because of the consequences. So behavior is strengthened or weakened by its consequences. By what happens after the behavior is important. So a good example would be you see a child crying and you go and console them. Some of you might be parents, so you know that now that child has been reinforced to cry again when they want to seek your attention. So that would be an example there too. And then the consequences shape the behavior more so than do genes. And that's, I think Richard's actually discussed that a little bit. Schizophrenia would be a great example that there are behavior change, there are behavior analysis has shown to not cure by any means, but to at least help shape some of the characteristics, the behavior qualities that go into schizophrenia, and help ease some of that, sided, of course, with medication and proper medical support. So consequences can be positive, which is that they increase the behavior, or negative, they decrease the behavior. Behavior mostly it responds best to positive reinforcement. And I say that because a lot of people are so reactive with our behaviors. We will swat something away, but that is actually not, it's positive to us because we're removing it from us. You know, you see a bug and you swat it, but a lot of times that instant reactivity tends to be more negative than positive, even though we don't realize it. And behavior is a product of our immediate environment. We react upon what's around here. If I'm sitting at my desk and it's dark, I'm gonna go turn on the light. That's a behavior. Let this person in, okay? Then, where was I on my slides? So this is where I'm gonna start getting in a little deeper than where Richard had discussed it before. Behavior essentially has 4 functions in behavior analysis. We either do things to escape, we either do things to obtain attention, or something tangible, or something sensory, and we call it eats. A great example is my dog is currently hiding under my desk because it's thundering, so this is an escape behavior. Your child comes up to you and says, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." That would be an attention. Tangible, I actually have a little fidget toy here at my desk because I tend to fidget a lot when I get nervous or when I'm just thinking. So this would be an example of a tangible behavior. And then sensory, putting on a good song. You know, you just want to kind of jam out and listen to some music. Engaging and turning on that radio would be a sensory-based behavior chain. So reinforcement versus punishment. This one's going to get this is, if you guys have any questions with this, I hope that I'm explaining this to my best ability here.
Does anyone have
Oh yeah, does anybody have any questions so far? And let me pull up the chat box. Where's the chat box?
It should be. Is it under more?
Yeah, it is under more. Oh, freaking Max. There we go. All right, cool. Chat box. All right. So, like I said, when a behavior is reinforced, it's more likely to occur again. When a behavior is punished, you're probably going to see it dip. You're not going to really see that behavior happen again. Negative reinforcement and what is this one? Yeah, do not confuse negative reinforcement with punishment. Now remember, when something is reinforced, it includes a behavior. It increases the behavior, and when something is punished, it decreases the behavior. So here's a tricky concept that I know I struggled with to understand when I was getting the basis of applied behavior analysis. You have negative reinforcement and you have punishment. So when I use the terms negative and positive, negative implies that I was removing something, and positive implies that I was doing something I was including something in. So something that is negatively reinforced, I am removing something, and then that behavior will most likely occur again because I removed it. A good example would be there's construction going on outside and the noise is really loud in my office. I get up, I close the door, and I come back and sit at my desk. I just removed that noise. The noise was my antecedent to get up. I just removed that noise from the situation. I went back and sat at my desk. It's now quiet again. I'm probably going to do that again because I enjoy having the quiet, so that behavior is reinforced of shutting the door when it gets noisy. That would be negative reinforcement. So positive punishment is another tricky one too. That implies that I am adding something to the situation, and it will decrease the chances of that happening again. A good example of positive punishment would be, what is it again? What is the one I used the other day?
Spanking.
That's true. Yeah, actually spanking is an example of positive punishment. And regardless of how anybody feels about it, that it is seen as a positive punishment. The child gets fussy, I'm going to spank them, and they're not going to cry again. So I've added something, the spanking, and they're not going to cry again. It's been punished. That's right. That is a pretty good one. All right. So when it comes to teaching, when it comes to instruction, I've had this awesome example plenty of times where I've given a child, I'm sure it's those of you that have children, you're like, can you go put your shoes on? Yeah, sure. I can do it tomorrow. You know, it's like, no, when we give instruction in applied behavior analysis, we really try and emphasize every point of the instruction. And this is why you'll see a lot of educators, especially those working with special needs, have the BCBA component to it. Because it's all about being specific. If you want the behavior to happen or don't happen, you need to be very specific with what you want. Okay, so can you go put your shoes on? Yeah, tomorrow. Okay, can you go put your shoes on right now so that we can go outside and you can play? I've now included a little bit of a reward that you're going to get for going and putting on your shoes. So when we are using instruction in terms of applied behavior analysis, it's very important to be as thorough as possible in how we are asking about a behavior. So consequences. Consequences either cause the behavior to continue to increase in the future or decrease in the future. And the key is future. So you're not going to see the change right away. It's going to be a gradual change, very rarely, unless it's something like a child touches a hot stove and right away they know that that's hot. That was a primary sense that was offended there. So yeah, that they're not going to do that again. But for behaviors that the majority of behaviors that we try and modify in behavior analysis it's a progress. It's a lot of figuring out what is reinforcing, what is punishing. We are always changing our behavior plans. It's very rarely that I develop a behavior plan for a student and haven't modified it, and by the end it looks something completely different. So let's see, the more effective, It is more effective to attach a positive consequence to appropriate behavior. And you may have to add something, not remove something, that will increase the desired behavior. So a great example of building up momentum, we call it behavioral momentum, is for the shoe situation. A lot of times we want the end product right now. And yes, you need to get your shoes on so we can go outside, so we can, but it also helps if we reward just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Oh, great job putting your socks on. Okay, can you do this now? Okay, and that way we are kind of building up behavioral momentum. And eventually you're gonna wanna fade all of that reinforcement, that verbal praise out. But it does help to at least build up a skill acquisition, for sure. Do not let your opinions and expectations affect your observation. This is one of my favorite quotes, because a lot of times when behavior analysts go into a situation, they might hear like, oh, that school's on the west side of town, you know. So already they're going in with this idea of what that environment is going to look like. And it's very difficult sometimes to kind of put that personal hat aside and just go into a situation, a clean slate. Because we all do, we're human, we have opinions, but a lot of times those opinions affect what our perception of what we're seeing. And that's why you'll see a lot of behavior analysts, we work in teams to get that bit of inner observer agreement that, okay, we're all seeing the same thing. We all saw the same behavior. We all saw where it was coming from, and we saw what happened after. And perspective matters. This is actually a really good example too of, you know, the baby is crying and you go and you give it the pacifier, positive reinforcement for crying. Ooh, I added something, you're reinforced to cry again for that pacifier. Baby won't stop crying. Parents give the baby a pacifier, baby stops crying. Negative reinforcement for parents. They remove themselves from that situation, from hearing that crying, while simultaneously reinforcing the crying. And this is interesting when I work with especially young infants and toddlers. A lot of, I feel like an investigator half the time, because you're trying to break down why the behavior is crying, or why the child is engaging in the behavior. I had one kid, he just constantly liked to pull hair. And it's a common behavior, but for him, I was noting that this was a little excessive, and to the point where one of my other students came in with a little bald patch one day. So finally, my teaching staff and I, we broke it down. What's going on? We tried so many things, come to find out the behavior was actually, it was tangible. No way, shape, or form did he ever mean to hurt another child, but he wanted that tangible stimulation. So we introduced a couple items. This was actually one of the ones that I used for him, and it worked. He stopped pulling hair. So that, you know, that's an example of just trying to break down behaviors. It really is like being an investigator. And like I'd mentioned, in many fields where you'll find behavior analysts, one of the more prominent research designs that came out of industrial organization with behavior analysis component was this study that went on with construction workers. And they just could not get the construction workers to wear those safety vests, all of their safety gear and everything. Like, they would put them on, you know, the second their boss would come walking down the hall, they'd put it on and everything. But overall, the company just wasn't seeing the safety that they needed from their employees. So a team of behavior analysts went in there, and lo and behold, they found out after interviewing and observing and doing a series of analysis that the material, that the shirts and everything that they were required to wear was uncomfortable. And it was making a lot of the employees itchy. It was giving them rashes. And this is just, like, it's just about being an investigator. We deal with all kinds of behaviors, safety related, medically related, education. So once they got new material for their safety equipment, they were good. They were good to go. What? Oh, yeah.
I'll be back.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So our environment. If you change the environment, you will most likely change the behavior. Like I said, the environment in the industrial organization with the construction workers, we changed the environment that was the material of the shirts. Once that was changed, they were all on board, they started wearing them, and safety increased in the building. If a behavior is occurring in your home or classroom, accept that there might be something in that environment that is reinforcing this behavior. Being in the education field for a decade, I have worked with so many teacher teams. And on every team, I always have that one teacher that's like, I don't think so. We've always done it this way. And they just drive me nuts. Simultaneously, they're one of my favorite people to work with because I'm like, all right, sure, all right. And of course, they'll have behavior problems. And all I could do is just kind of give an example in my classroom of how to change the behavior. One, her shoe, like your students refuse to put on shoes. I thought it was hilarious. And I used that chain with them. I went and I showed her, I said, okay, you're expecting a full behavior, but might it be easier if your end result is to get that full behavior, let's reinforce it just a little bit, build up that behavioral momentum. They'll put on by the end of this, once it's all done, and like I said, the key is future. It's going to take a couple tries of this. They'll be able to put on their shoes and they'll go. But you have to build that up. So some misuse consequences that I want to go over here are timeout, overcorrection. Let's see, what was that one? Reprimands and empty threats, and reasoning and logic. Apologize. So timeout actually is very effective. And like all of these consequences, these are great consequences, but they're just misused. And I'm going to let you know why. So when teachers use timeout as a punishment, they forget that when it's time for the child to come back in and rejoin the group, that needs to be more reinforcing than it was punishing to go sit out. Timeout is only effective if time in is just as, or if not more effective. Overcorrection. So overcorrection is when a child colors on a wall and you say, okay, go clean the wall. Now go do the dishes. Now go clean your room. Now go walk the dog. Like by the time you've dished out this whole chain of consequences, they don't even remember why they were doing this in the first place. So overcorrection, the best form to use it is just have them clean up that mess, just that. But anything more is misusing overcorrection. So reprimands and empty threats, that's, all right, well, when daddy gets home, he's not gonna be happy. Well, if you do that again, I'm gonna take your toy away. Hey, I said stop doing that, I'm gonna take your toy away. Like, just do it. Like, follow through. We need to always follow through. And that's, I'd say empty threats are probably one of my most seen consequences that I often correct with teachers. Because it is easy for us. We hope that we can just say this, what we're gonna do, this threat, and they'll behave, but it doesn't, and we end up wearing ourselves out at the end. So reasoning and logic too. This one is geared towards for more educational purposes. And when you have a child in the middle, in the heat of a tantrum, just uncontrollable, sobbing, crying, or yelling, the last thing you can do with them is reasoning and logic. I call it red zoned. When a child has red zoned, and that's just they've just shut down, and all they're doing is engaging in this feeling cycle. You can't reason with them. You can't say, I need you to calm down right now so we can go. Like that, you're making it worse. The first thing you can do when a child red zones is get that feeling cycle under control first. Because once you get that feeling cycle down, then you'll be able to start talking it through. My goddaughter right now is 3, and she goes in the red zone quite a bit now. And she's very feelings aware. So a lot of times it's just acknowledging, okay, hey, I know you're upset right now. I'm going to be right here next to you, but I need you to calm down, and then we can talk about this. And then she'll usually come and say, I just had big feelings. So some best practices for going into this field, working in applied behavior analysis, is you want to set clear and realistic expectations. Of course, I need you to know what I'm expecting, and I need to know what you're expecting out of this. And make consequences known. Don't just like wing it. Like, okay, I need you to clean your room, or this will happen. Or I need you to clean your room and this will happen. Let them know in advance what's going to happen. Let's see what's up. Maintain a routine. That's a big one. Yep. Especially working with children. They thrive on routine. They like to know what comes next. What are we going to do next? And you'll see more consistent behavioral patterns with a routine, of course. And make sure that they have the skills needed to perform the task before you ask them. You know, shoe time is a great one. I've had teachers get frustrated. I know I always talk about shoes a lot, but it's a great example of a task building. You can't expect a child to put on their shoes and tie them if they don't know how to tie. You know, so just make sure that they have that skill set, is what we call it. And if they don't have that skill set, you work on building that skill set up first before you work on the end result, which would be them putting on their shoes and tying. And remember, every child, oh yeah, that's right, because I did this workshop for a teaching demo earlier. Every child does something special throughout the day. Like, it could be your worst, like most poorly behaved child, but I can almost guarantee you there's going to be something that they do that is worth making a comment. And this can even go for your coworkers. That could be that one Becky with the horrible hair in the back corner that you just cannot stand. To maintain at least a decent workplace environment and to keep, you know, everything professional, there's a chance Becky might do something today, even if it's just silly, like, thanks for shutting the door, Becky, you know. But just try and reinforce one thing a day, and it will slowly build up. And be mindful of your tone too when you're working with education teams too and children. And then, yeah, make sure punishment is known. And then story time, that was, the story time was for my other teaching group too. So that's ABA. Right now, I just started my second year in the master's program. Just as Richard is, I'm working from home. But when I'm not working from home, and hopefully when the University of West Florida opens back up, I am the graduate assistant for the Center for Applied Behavior Analysis. If you guys are in the area and are even interested in anything behavior, I strongly encourage you to come check out our building. We're in Argo Village, which is the back entrance of UWF, but we have one of only 2 Virtua simulators in the state of Florida right now. And for those that aren't familiar, Virtua, V-I-R-T-U-A, is this octagon room of a simulator that you walk in. And we have one, and I think IHMC downtown has one. But what we use it for, and my advisor, she's working on performance management with law enforcement. So we have a partnership right now with the University of West Florida's law enforcement, where they come in and they go into the simulator and they practice actual scenarios where they might need to discharge their weapons. And what this is showing is when a lot of, and I don't mean to get any political, this is just the facts from the research. When a lot of law enforcement go into the field, yeah, they have that basic training. Every 2 years, I think they need to cycle through and go through specific training, but it's very, very rare for law enforcement to be in a situation where they have to discharge their weapon or de-escalate a situation to this degree. And because of that, when they do face situations where they have to discharge their weapon or use force, it's statistically shown that there's misusage of the weapon, and there has been a correlation to lack of proper training. So what we're doing at the Center for Behavior Analysis is we're trying to give law enforcement alternative training methods rather than discharge the weapon. It's a simulation that talks back to you. So, and it's so trippy. Like it's really neat. And it'll talk back to you. So we encourage law enforcement to try and use more de-escalation measures than to discharge a weapon. But we hopefully will be back up and running soon, because this is a big project of ours that we could use help from the public to just at least come in and try it out and work out some of the kinks. But yeah, does anybody have any questions? I thank you guys so much for coming out on a rainy Friday. Is anybody interested in going into behaviorism or psychology education?
I am.
Oh, awesome. What age?
I want to be a college professor.
Oh, nice. Cool. All right. What do you want? Do you want to teach education, or what do you want to teach? Oh, oh, sweet. Okay. I'm actually hoping, if I'll be graduated in a year, I'm hoping to start adjuncting for either UWF or Pensacola State for their education department. What's this one? Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be what you're focused on. Like I said, ABA, we are branching out. For the past 20 years, I'd say we've been highly associated with autism and special needs. Yeah, so different jobs. Like I mentioned, I'm going into organizational behavior management. So I am going to be working with teacher teams on how they can better be teacher teams. I will be going into centers that might not have the best staff approach, or they just need a little shake up at the center. I would like to go in and assess everything and kind of say, okay, these behaviors, it's called performance management. Hey, if you guys do this stuff as a team, group approach, you'll see more positive behaviors coming from your center. Another one, so how many of you guys have seen Office Space? Right now, the Bobs. The Bobs are an example of ABA, an organization. What do you say you do here exactly? And then in the medical field, we also work with medical staff on a lot of surgery-like behaviors. So medical professionals feeling stressed under pressure. I know I had a supervisor once that went and worked with an emergency room staff on, they had migraines. They couldn't figure out what was going on. And because they were having migraines, a lot of their staff were calling out. And it was a very interesting situation. So she was part of a behavior team that went into the hospital, and lo and behold, it was the lights. She found out that once they experimented with different lights in the emergency room, a lot of medical professionals, the people in the building weren't having severe headaches anymore. Yes, ABA is similar to therapy and counseling. So psychology for sure. I think, in fact, right now, if you are sitting for the BCBA, which is the Master's Equivalent Board Certified Behavior Analyst, you have to have one of two master's degrees, which is either education or psychology. Oh, and let me go into the different stages too. But after January 2022, we are opening up the floodgates. You can have any degree and anything, and then come and take the BCBA, so course sequence classes. So there are 3 levels to behavior analysts. We have an RBT, which is a registered behavior technician. Those are usually the people you'll see working in, I think, West Florida, the Pavilion. We have a couple. That's the bottom ring of the tier here. They are assigned to work with staff. They run the programs that the BCBAs create. They don't create the programs themselves, but they'll run them on their clients. They'll and then the next tier is called a BCABA, and that's what you can get with your bachelor's degree. It's 4 courses you can finish in 6 months, and a BCABA has a little more control than an RBT. They work more one-on-one with the clients. They can also do more thorough analyses with the clients and do data collection. They still, however, cannot write the analyses. That is what a BCBA, which is what I'm going for, is doing. They're the ones that go in with the RBTs and the BCABAs, and together they all collect their data, and then they all come back, and it's the BCABA's job to write the analyses, and then it's the RBTs and the BCABA's responsibility to implement it. Some other careers where I've seen it, I actually have a student who is in finance right now in one of my cohorts, and he's just using it. He wants to go into the stock market, and he wants to understand behavioral economics, which is basically just our consumer-like behaviors, which is kind of neat. So it's anywhere, wherever you want to understand why something happened behaviorally, this is it. Education, of course. Let's see. Okay, so my degree is exceptional student education. And it's interesting because, like I mentioned, I plan on sitting before January 2022. So I need one of 2 degrees to sit, which is either psychology or exceptional student education. I chose exceptional student education. Honestly, just because I was in education at the time and I thought it would help. But you can get your master's in anything. And so what's happened is you'll get a master's degree. Like, let's say you're in, I don't know, biology. And then what my center offers, what our department offers, are the side sequence classes that you can take and accompany with your master's degree, so that once you graduate, you'll have your master's degree, but you'll also have this certification that now you can take and sit for the board exam, if that helps. All of the courses that are in the exceptional student education degree, with the exception of one, are taught by our center instructors. They all are BCBA certified. We create our own modules and workshops as well. Yeah, we can definitely, I'll stay back and chat with you if you want to. So let's see, anything else about behavior analysts? Oh yeah, no, behavior analyst, the one thing I love about it is it's all science. It's all data. You can't argue with data. And I know a lot of people would like to argue with data, but with the data, we can show that it might be something other than a medication that's needed for a treatment, an intervention, if that's what you mean, yes. I have personally worked with some children where the parents, they wanted to go down the medical route. And I'm not a medical professional by any means, but I said, hey, would you mind if I tried a couple observations and let's try and tweak a few things. And it did come to find out that they ended up needing some medication, but not as much with the changes that I had made in the environment for them. Yeah, I can stay back after for sure. Yep. That's about it. I don't know. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming.
What advice do you have for somebody going into the early childhood education or elementary education field?
Ooh, okay. So are you working on you're getting your bachelor's degree right now?
I'm actually getting my associates, but I want to stay with PSC as long as I can and get every degree I can through them, and then I'll go on to my bachelor's.
Yeah, and they have a nice, have you been into their, the playroom in the education department?
I have not. I didn't know they had a playroom.
Oh, it's so cool. So, because I've taken a couple education courses there as well, but they have this mock playroom where you can kind of experiment with some of the different toys, and because I know that they use it for some minor research too. But they have a great education program. I recommend if you're going into education, definitely study behaviorism for sure. When you do plan on getting your bachelor's degree, come and talk to us and talk about the 4-course sequence, because you can be registered at any university anywhere and take the 4 courses with us.
With UWF?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
We
is
have
the playroom at
students from all over.
UWF as well?
Huh?
Is the playroom at UWF as well?
We don't have a playroom. No. In fact, I'm going to be honest. Our education department right now is kind of going through some changes, and I have known quite a few of my student teachers to switch over and do psychology versus our education.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Pensacola State has a rock and education program. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And that's just at the main campus?
That's where I took my classes, was here at the Pensacola campus, but I know every once in a while they do them out in on the Milton campus, which is my favorite campus. It's gorgeous. And then there's that one medical building. I don't think they do any education courses there. That's more nursing.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Anybody else? See, of course, now I'm feeling chatty like at the end of it. So let's see.
Daniel, you have to unmute yourself. At the bottom corner, there's an unmute button.
Oh no.
You can also hold down the space bar. There you go. You got it.
Okay.
Hey.
So my first question, Professor. So, this Virtua Octagon Simulator, right? And you said in the Argo Village, in the back of UWF. Is it free?
So right now we got it like less than a year ago, and we were hoping to, because our center is brand new, and we just moved in. We were planning for a big open house for the public and the university, and then we got shut down because of COVID. But once we are up and going, we are open to the public with a scheduled visit, but we are constantly using this machine for updates, and we're constantly needing participants to come in and kind of just test it out. In fact, one of the newest updates that I'm super excited to play around with is, oh, by the way, all of the situations that you are exposed to in this game are real, and they have happened. My first ever, which I ended up having to walk away because I was shook so much, was a theater incident. And it did not end well. It didn't end well for me.
Oh, wow.
And they
I'm
are
sorry.
real. No, it's been interesting because I've seen officers get choked up in the middle of it. So I caution, if you are going to come use it, it is very lifelike. But we just got a new simulation update, which involves de-escalating situations with individuals with special needs. So someone having a mental breakdown, someone with on the spectrum, just acting out or something. We now have a simulation upgrade for that. So that I'm really excited for, because that's very needed with mental health. Yes.
I come back to the area around, I think, October. Do you think it'll be open by then?
So I was actually supposed to go back, and we got shut back down again. I'm not sure if we're going to be open, but if you guys want to follow on Facebook, it's UWF ABA is our page. And God, you're loud. And we give all of our updates. We also share the building with Autism Pensacola. So we don't provide autism services. We provide training and education, but they are our sister group, and whenever anybody calls and is asking for referrals, we refer them to them. They're awesome. Yep. Okay. Have a great day. And there's also a Starbucks, which I think that's what I really missed the most. I call it the pew pew machine. But yeah, it's neat. There is duck hunt. Though we're not supposed to promote the fun games on it. There is duck hunt and there is a zombie shoot game. Yeah. But
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you, Professor. I appreciate your
You're
time.
so welcome. Yeah, no, this has been actually really helpful for me because I'm getting supervision hours for this. So thank you. Yes.
Sweet.
For anybody that is wanting to go in the field, we don't have a thesis. There's no thesis. However, you and right now I'm in the midst of it. You do need to do a research design. So going into organizational behavior management, I'm actually looking at, and it's so weird how the idea came to me. I was watching a goofy TED talk at the effects of the progress bar and countdown. So when you guys are taking tests or engaging in a task, are you more likely to complete it when you can see your progress go up or when you're being timed to complete it under time down pressure? And I'm going to look at tasks and how we complete tasks under different time pressure restraints. So like I said, the research is everywhere. It's all over the field. Living on campus. Oh, no, that's not a stress at all. We do, so if that's something that, do you mind me answering? But if that's something that is kind of impairs your test taking ability, we do offer like extended testing ability. Like because of my vision, I actually need extra time too. And I do have horrible testing anxiety. Why are you having anxiety? It could be if you're prepared for the test, that's one way to diminish the anxiety. For me, I found out that a lot of my test taking is that I fidget a lot. Like I said, I always have this, and without my fidget next to me, I'm kind of like, so kind of look into what about the test, what part of it makes you anxious? Is it knowing that it's coming up? Is it when you're in the middle of it? Do you feel prepared enough for the test? So yeah, testing anxiety is very common. I have it. It sucks, so I'm sorry. Yep. Oh, I also, yeah, if you guys call the office, you can find all our website, our information on our UWF website as well, including our contact information. And half the day, it's usually me answering the phones too. So if you guys ever just want to talk one-on-one, in fact, here, I can look up what our phone number is and put it in the chat box. What is our phone number? I think that's us. That should be us. But yeah, I would be more than happy to talk to you guys over the phone too if you guys have any more questions. And if it won't be me answering the phone, it will be one of our program specialists. Oh, I don't think I think I didn't hand that out completely. Sorry, 850-474-2704. Oh, darn my eyesight. All right, there we go. Boom. Does anybody have any more questions?
And what is this phone number for again?
So this is the direct line for the Center for Behavior Analysis. And if you guys have any questions about our program, about research, wanting to just get to know ABA, I run the afternoon phone part of the shift, and then one of our other program specialists runs the morning shift. But we'd be glad to chat with you about anything ABA. Yeah. Oh yeah, so that's yeah, test stress You're very welcome. Test stress is complicated because there are so many environmental factors, and that's another thing. I gave that very pretty A, B, C contingency there, but a lot of the times it's not that clear, cut, and dry. There are a plethora of antecedents of so many things that it could affect just one behavior. But I suggest just a lot of self-monitoring. I will not suggest journaling because I am not one to journal myself, my feelings or anything, but just a lot of self-monitoring. I use the 5-4-3-2-1 method, which doesn't work for everybody. To me it works. It's when you place your hand on your chest and you count down, and what is it, like 5 things you hear, 4 things you smell, 3, I don't know, and then basically you engage in all of your senses to kind of calm you down. And that's helped me. Also, I just had to walk away from a test for like 2 minutes and then just do a lap around the house and then come back. It's kind of just like a shake up. So, you'll find your thing, but the easiest way to find it is just some self-monitoring. Yeah. You're very welcome. Oh yeah. It's kind of passing through here. I think we left out, and I think that's why I lost you guys early on. So I apologize for that. But yeah, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, you guys were awesome. Thank you so much for participating. It's been great. Thank you guys. You guys have an awesome weekend, okay? Do you want to say bye, Richard?
Bye, Richard.
Damn it, I knew I was going to do that. Y'all take care. Where is the...
There should be a red end meeting button. Bottom right.
I actually have one more question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on medication?
So like I said, I'm not a medical professional. Medication, like the data does show that it does help. I personally do believe it is overprescribed in a number of situations. However, that's something that is mostly acknowledged through a medical professional. We, as behavior analysts, aren't trained to prescribe medicine, just behavioral treatment programs. But it's tricky that, there's so many side effects, and I personally have had to experiment with a couple of different anti-anxiety medications, and there's a personal story. I once thought, you know what, I don't need it. And I went off it, and it did not end well at all. So come to find out, what I was on wasn't the right one for me, but I still needed some sort of just chemical help to, I call it, keep down the radio, because I get anxious. But yeah, and medication is always a personal preference. It's always somebody, that's your choice. Yeah. I hope that helped.
It did. I was prescribed it, and I've talked to a lot of people who've taken it, and they told me that it's like a drug. You can't come off of it, and it honestly terrified me. So I wondered, from a psychological perspective, what your thoughts on it was.
Yeah.
Or even Mr. Carr, if he has something to say about it.
Yeah, just a sec.
You come join us.
Yeah. That chair is difficult to get out of. So, I guess to a certain extent, it depends on the the medication that we're talking about. That the floor is kind of bad for my knees.
Gabapentin?
Gabapentin for anxiety. I don't have any experience with it. I mean, she's giving me her chair. So I have had some experiences with medication of my own. I'm certainly not an anti-medication person. In full disclosure, I take an antidepressant on a regular basis. It helps me with my anxiety, and it also helps me with my moods. And I've pretty much been on an antidepressant for most of my adult life. And I find that it helps me, and I don't have any shame about that. At the same time, there are some medications, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't take those medications, but there are some medications like your benzodiazepines, like Xanax, and I don't know if gabapentin is a benzo, but you have some medications like Xanax and Klonopin and Ativan and Valium, which are very effective at treating panic attacks in particular, undeniably effective. The downside to those medications, I'm not saying they shouldn't be taken, but the downside to those medications is that they can be habit forming and you can develop a tolerance to them pretty quickly. And some people forget that they've taken it and they'll drink while on one of those medications, and that can cause some really dangerous side effects. And people have died from drinking a glass of wine with their Xanax. People have died from that, right? So, you just got to be really cautious when it comes, I think, particularly with the anti-anxiety medications in particular. You have to be cautious, about developing a tolerance, and you have to be cautious about, it being habit forming. You have to be cautious about not abusing it, because it can be just so easy to take an extra one, right? Like just an extra Xanax, but then you get into this habit of, you develop even more and more of a tolerance. So just 2 becomes just 3. And before you know it, you see where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
So
my mom, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm not condemning their use. I'm just saying use with caution. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
My mom I have addiction runs in my family
Right.
really deep, so it scares me. But I have been prescribed it. They want me to take 1 for the first week, and then after that take 2 morning and night. And I'm a little scared. So I wondered, we've actually learned about it in class. So when she told me about gabapentin, I got scared because, agonists, that kind of thing. And I just wondered what your take personally was on it. And that really did help me. So thank you.
Yeah. So I think that might be a benzodiazepine, but I'm not sure. I have to look it up. But
Personally, I have taken Xanax and it has
Right.
helped me. And that's
it's a very powerful medication.
Mm-hmm. And it helped me. It was kind of a wild night type thing, and it ended up
Right.
just mellowing me out. It wasn't
Sure.
anything that I took for any kind of reason, and it just helped me. So
Well,
I
just
just
one-
wondered.
One Xanax probably isn't going to hurt you, right?
Right.
I mean, I think 1 Xanax is what, 0.5 milligram. That's so powerful. Like 0.5 milligram
Mm-hmm.
does it. I mean, I've had one before. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm not green to this stuff, right? I mean, I know the effects that it can have, and it's very, very powerful medication. Actually, it wasn't Xanax that I had. It was Valium. I went in for which is a cousin of Xanax. It's actually slightly stronger than Xanax. But I had a surgery, and it was a surgery that I was going to be awake for. And they each give you a local, right? And I was just freaking out about the fact that I was going to be wide awake with my body open, right? And I didn't like that. And I was having it was an outpatient procedure that took 10, maybe 20 minutes, but I was just so anxious about being awake for the procedure that the surgeon went ahead and gave me not 1, but 2 Valium to shut me up, because I was just so
wow.
anxious before the procedure. You could tell I was a nervous wreck. So he gave me 2 Valium. And I popped them before the surgery. And I remember thinking to myself during that surgery, am I having surgery right now? This may be the best I've ever felt in my life, despite the fact that there's a man with a knife inside my body right now, right? So, that's how powerful of a drug it is, right? These drugs are very powerful, and you can just be totally mellow. Well, of course, it gave me a local anesthetic too, but the fact that I could just be completely la 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 while there's a guy inside me with a knife, or scalpel, whatever, or laser, whatever he was using, I don't know. But and I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is a powerful drug, and I can see why people develop an addiction to these sorts of drugs. And that's the only time I've ever taken it. Unfortunately, despite what I might have liked, he didn't give me a prescription to take some home. I just got the 2 at the office, and that was it. So once they wore off, that was it. But
Well, that's probably for the best.
right? Yeah. I mean, but it felt nice. I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm not promoting it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tell all you guys to go out and take benzodiazepines because it feels good. The point that I'm making is that they're extremely habit-forming drugs. And I'm not discouraging anybody who medically needs them from taking them as they're prescribed. But, you know, you just got to exercise caution. And as far as antidepressants are concerned, from personal experience, I can vouch for not everyone, you know, not everyone has the same experience. Not everyone has a positive experience with antidepressants. I had to try, I think, 4 or 5 different antidepressants before I found the one that worked for me, which is not uncommon, by the way. It took basically 2 years for me to find the right antidepressant when I first started getting treated for depression. It was a really frustrating process, right? So I was really happy to find the right one finally. But so the process of finding an antidepressant that works the best for you can be really frustrating and drawn out. And antidepressants can have some nasty side effects. And if you're taking one of the newer ones that doesn't have the copyright expired on it, that doesn't have a generic available, you can pay some. I mean, the antidepressant that I take right now is a newer one, and there's no generic for it. With my insurance, and I have good insurance through the college. With my insurance, my antidepressant is like $60 a month.
Ooh.
Yeah. Without my insurance, it runs $300 for 30 pills. Without insurance.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got lucky and they gave me a state med, so they're $12, both of them together. I prescribed Prozac, but that one,
Okay.
I'm not really scared about that one.
Yeah, well, that one's generic. It's been around a long time, and it's an old, reliable medication that works well for a lot of people. And
Does it
in fact,
change behavior?
you know, there is a book that I bought recently that I've been meaning to read called Speaking with Prozac. And it's a book about the way that antidepressants can chemically and emotionally transform a person. So I think, yes, that there is some evidence, just from what I'm familiar with anecdotally, and from my own experience. My dog is very needy of attention right now. So sorry for the distraction. Of course, now she wants to play. You know what? Go away. You're being. Go away.
That's okay. I really do appreciate you giving me this
Yeah.
advice, Mr. Carr. It really does help. I am going to give it a try, and worst case scenario, I'll just come off of it very slowly as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not saying you should go off of it.
Mhm.
If it's helping you and it's not causing you any problems.
Right. Okay.
You know.
Well, I will let you go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And, you know, I didn't mean to take over Sarah's spot here. This was her meeting, but I guess she's done. So,
Well, I can answer the phone.
so did anyone have any more questions for Sarah or for me? It's good to see that so many of you showed up for this.
Stuff does get lost in his hair, by the way.
It does happen.
I think somebody in the comments had a question as well.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, look at the comments.
Can medications change a person's behavior? That's really scary. Yeah, medications can change your behavior. Yeah, I mean, the behavior is ultimately the result of what the brain is doing, right? It's your behavior is the result of your brain interacting with your environment. And the environmental side of it is what behaviorists focus on, which is the side that my wife focuses on. But anytime you change the neurochemistry of any animal's brain, you're going to change their behavior if you change their brain chemistry in a significant way, because everything that you think, feel, and do ultimately is the result of neurochemical activity in your brain. So if you change neurochemical activity in your brain, you change the way you feel, you change the way you behave. And that's essentially what psychiatry is all about. Yeah, so they're attempting to get people to change their behavior and moods for the better. But yes, it can definitely, I would say that there's no doubt that psychopharmacological agents can have a significant impact on both your mental state and your behaviors. Yeah. You're muted.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to put the name to the face. I'm the guy who sends you 1,000 emails about like
Which one?
course.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's all right. It's part of my job to answer emails, and I don't mind at all. So
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say thank you.
I'm glad you
I
put a
got-
face to the name.
Yeah. I got my book halfway through the course. I started reading, and it's just interesting stuff. So thank you for working with me,
Good.
Professor.
And I'm glad I could meet some of you guys that are in my fully online class that I haven't met until today. So cool. Yeah, I think like half of you guys are in my fully online class, and we don't have Zoom meetings. So, and I also want to apologize for those of you in that section. I did post a couple of lectures that I had recorded towards the beginning of the course, and it had been my intent to have more lectures recorded for you guys in that section. And I got overwhelmed with everything that's on my plate, and I didn't get a chance to record as many lectures as I would like. I do have some old lectures from some of my old sections in the past that are already recorded that I could post for you guys in that section. They're just recordings of old class meetings. If that would that be helpful? I mean, I know it's a little late in the game. It's a little late in the semester, but it might still be helpful for the final exam, which you guys haven't had yet. So maybe I'll post a few of my old lectures from some of my old Zoom classes for you guys, to just maybe so you guys can get a little bit more lecture content, because I had meant for there to be more lecture content in that fully online class. So again, I appreciate you guys' patience with me. And someone commented about marijuana. Let's see. Someone asked, I don't want to say this out loud either, but what about marijuana? All right, great question. So as many of you guys are aware, at least half the states have legalized pot in some way, right? We've got a good number of states that have legalized it recreationally, meaning that anybody can get it. If you're over the age of 18, you can buy it like you can buy cigarettes or alcohol, right? A number of states have gone that direction. A number of other states have gone the direction of medicinal cannabis, which is what we have here in Florida, where you have to have a doctor's prescription to consume it. And then you have like half the states still where it's completely illegal and you'll get arrested for owning it. And then at the federal level, it's still completely illegal at the federal level, right? So marijuana laws right now are a complete mess in this country. But you're probably wanting to know someone has an appointment that needs to go. That's fine, I understand. But what you're probably asking is, what are the psychological effects? What are the effects on the brain? Well, the research on that seems to be mixed. For one, there are some valid medical uses of marijuana. Or cannabis would be the correct term, actually. Marijuana is actually, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but marijuana is a term that cannabis came to be referred to as back in the early 1900s, because cannabis was associated with Mexican immigrants. And in fact, it was actually one of the reasons why cannabis was made illegal, was because of racism against Mexican immigrants, basically. And there was a connotation, and marijuana is what the Mexican immigrants called cannabis. It's the Mexican word, basically, or Spanish word for weed, right? So, or cannabis. So it came to be known as marijuana. But in any case, there are some valid medicinal uses. For example, cancer patients getting their appetites back, people I've got a friend who has a severe case of colitis, which is an intestinal disorder, and she has a medicinal cannabis prescription, and it has made her colitis much more manageable. She's gotten her appetite back. I mean, it's worked wonders for her. And there's some evidence that it might be helpful. Ulcerative colitis. There's some evidence that it might also be helpful for folks with PTSD. But there's some other research evidence that also seems to suggest that long-term use might put someone at increased risk for schizophrenia. It could put you at increased risk for, actually there's some evidence that it might cause mild amounts of shrinkage to the hippocampus. Does anybody remember what the hippocampus is? Anybody remember from the brain chapter in psychology? What's the hippocampus? What does it do? So the hippocampus is the structure in the brain that, and I got to give my wife her computer back, but she's got to work. We're in her room right now. But the hippocampus is the structure in the brain that's primarily responsible for encoding memories, right? And if you have severe damage to the hippocampus, you'll have memory impairments. There's some evidence emerging that long-term use, and when I say long-term, I mean 10 to 20 years daily use, heavy use over a long period of time, chronic use. Get it? See what I did there? Chronic use. Anyway, that chronic use long-term chronic use could lead to shrinkage of the hippocampus over the long term. So that, if you smoke weed your whole life, you might end up with a higher likelihood of memory problems later in life. There's some evidence that might be the case. And there's also some evidence that long-term use might put an individual at increased risk for schizophrenia. So doctors don't recommend that if severe mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder runs in your family, then there has been a medical recommendation to avoid cannabis use, because there is evidence that those who are predisposed to schizophrenia could have that aggravated by smoking weed, right? So I guess the bottom line is there are folks that it helps, and there are folks who shouldn't use it. Is the short answer, to your question. Does that help the person who asked that? Okay, let's
They're
see.
not going to say. They didn't want to say who it was.
Yeah, they don't want to. The person who asked is.
I'll go ahead and say it. It was me. Yes, it does help. Thank you.
Yeah, nobody wants to admit to smoking weed publicly, right? But I mean, it's legal if you've got a script. But in any case, I got another question. Is schizophrenia the same thing as multiple personality disorder? No, it is not. And I do need to give my wife her computer back, so this will probably be the last question that I answer. Schizophrenia is a disorder characterized by the presence of hallucinations and delusions, right? So for example, if I believed that all of you right now were members of or CIA agents trying to spy on me, I really believe this, by the way, if I really believe this, that you all were CIA agents trying to spy on me and that the government's after me, blah, 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 right? That's a delusion. That's a paranoid delusion. A hallucination is having a sensory experience that is not based upon what's actually happening in your physical environment, right? So you're smelling something that nobody else can smell, you're seeing something that nobody else can see, you're hearing something that nobody else can hear, etc., right? That's a hallucination. So that's what schizophrenia is mainly characterized by, is by hallucinations and delusional beliefs. And there's more to it than that, but for the sake of time, that's the main gist of schizophrenia. Multiple personality disorder, on the other hand, which is now called dissociative identity disorder, by the way, it's not quite the same thing. These people don't have hallucinations and delusions, but they experience episodes where they feel like other personalities take over their body, right? So you might have like 10, 20 personalities living in the same body. And it's a controversial diagnosis. Not all psychiatrists and psychologists even believe that it exists, by the way. Now, it's in the DSM, which is the Manual of Mental Disorders, but it's still controversial. And there are a lot of mental health professionals who believe that it's fake and that the people who are diagnosed with it are faking it. Very controversial. And then there are other mental health professionals who are real believers who believe that these people aren't faking and that it's a real thing, right? And it's something that psychologists have argued about for years. And it's something they continue to argue about. And Hollywood loves multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. And yeah, they like schizophrenia too. So if you want two examples of Hollywood versions of a Hollywood version of schizophrenia would be the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. And a Hollywood version of dissociative identity disorder would be the movie Split by M. Night Shyamalan. Shyamalan, whatever his name is. Shyamalamogram, I don't know. Shyamalan. And yeah, so that's the difference there between schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder. Okay, I got to give my wife I would love to sit here all day and chat with all you guys. Seriously, I love it.
Seriously, he would. He talks all the time.
But she needs her computer back. So
No, you're fine. Thank you so much for your answers.
So Yeah, no problem. It's good to meet some of you guys I haven't met yet. So I'll see you guys next week for those of you who are in my live online class on Zoom. And for those of you who are in my fully online class, I'll see you guys next time I do a round of grading. So, or when I'm answering my emails. Also, if you're in my fully online class, you're welcome to have a Zoom conference with me anytime you like. Just because we don't have Zoom meetings that doesn't mean that we can't have Zoom conferences if you want to have an instructor conference. I'm always available during my office hours for any of my students who want to meet via Zoom, whether you're in a fully online class or you're in a live class. So, if you need to talk to me again face-to-face, this is how we would do it. So, and I'm also teaching some classes this semester, this fall, for those of you who are trying to pick your fall courses. Fall registration is open. And I also teach sociology, and I teach human growth and development, and I teach psychology. So the 3 courses that I teach are general psych, human growth and development, and intro sociology. So if any of those 3 courses interest you this fall, then I'd love to see you again. All right, I'm going to give my wife her computer back now. I'll see you guys this week. Have a great weekend, guys.